Hello everyone, I hope you're having a fabulous day. Do you want to be fully prepared to entertain at the last minute or to pull together a delicious, comforting meal for your family without spending all day in the kitchen? I'm going to share with you one of the best tips for making sure you're always ready at the minute's notice to have a wonderful meal for your family. And what I call this is prepping ahead for either spaghetti and chili, so I call this my spaghetti base, or for a hamburger type casserole like beef stroganoff or something maybe with cheese, a shepherd's pie. It's ground beef. You can also use other meats, chuck, ground turkey, but you prep it ahead of time. It's fully cooked. You season it and then you let it cool and you freeze it. And then if you have unexpected company coming into town, or you want to invite all of your family over or friends one night for dinner, you can start with an already cooked base for spaghetti, chili, whatever your favorite dish is. And then all you have to do is throw this in the slow cooker with a few other ingredients, hands off, and then you'll have a fabulous meal. Just add a salad and bread and you're good to go. The reason I like to do this ahead, do spaghetti-based sauce ahead, is because number one, it's the messiest. You're dealing with raw meat. You are typically going to be draining grease. It's going to make your house smell like you've been cooking ground beef. And you don't want that right before you have company. And it takes the longest to brown and season and fully cook about 2 to 3 pounds. It takes probably start to finish roughly 30 minutes. So I'm going to show you what I do all the time, what I always have in my freezer, and I promise you, you will be so thankful and you'll feel like the hostess with the mostest when you say, oh, I'm just gonna make spaghetti because I've got spaghetti base in the freezer. So let's go. And I will be making spaghetti sauce base because I was pulling out my ground beef and I saw that I had some Italian sausage. So this will be the base for spaghetti or baked ziti, which I'm gonna link to both of my recipes. I have a spaghetti sauce and a baked ziti that this would be perfect for. I'm going to start by telling you the ingredients that I think are super, super helpful. My favorite pan for doing this kind of thing, this is a hex clad. This is a workhorse and I could not live without it. It's large. It has sides, so if you've got 3 pounds of meat, it's not gonna tip over into the grates of your oven, which might happen with a more shallow pan. It has a lid, and when you're browning meat, you do need a lid off and on because it will brown more evenly and consistently if you cover it some, because it steams the meat from within. If you don't use a lid when you're browning a large portion of ground meat, you can get it cooked on the outside and it may not be completely cooked on the inside, and you don't want that. So we're not going to turn on the oven yet. I've showed you my pan, and now I'm going to show you something I'm never without: powder-free food grade gloves. I'll link to these. I probably go through a box of these a month because I don't touch raw meat ever. I also use these to toss salads, to mix up like a big batch of chicken salad, or if I make my chicken tetrazzini. I like mixing things with my hands. It's just easier. I massage kale with gloved hands. Now I always use fresh gloves for every dish, but I'm putting this on because I'm going to show you one thing I'm going to do with this Italian sausage. So what I've got here is 2 pounds of ground beef or chuck, and I've got Italian sausage. We actually bought a cow and we bought a pig this year, and this is from the pig that we bought. I shared the pig with a friend. We specifically asked that they tell the processor to do Italian sausages. You can choose breakfast sausage, you can choose anything you want with the Italian pork, but this is Italian seasoned, and this has the casing. Now whether you buy this or have it processed, it's all going to have a casing. Now the casing is fine, you don't have to take the casing off, but I just want to show you what I do while we're on the subject of making spaghetti sauce base, because if you go to the store and you get Italian sausage, you might wonder, what do I do? You just get it started and it just pulls right off. You might have to get it started again. You can also get kitchen shears, or here's another way. You can just squeeze it out like this, but sometimes you have to keep cutting because once this gets long, you want to cut this portion off. Okay, guys, I didn't mean to talk this long about Italian sausage. See, there's the casing. I just prefer not to eat the casing, although it is perfectly harmless. See, look how easy this is. This Italian spaghetti base, so I've got the ground beef and I'm throwing in Italian sausage. You can also throw in ground pork. That's a good ground meat to add to an Italian base. But anyway, I've got that, and I'm going to throw all this away, guys, and I always sanitize. But here's what we have. Now, I'm just going to show you, and you may be grossed out, but I do have a meat mallet, but I'm going to, while I've got these gloves on, I'm just sort of going to use my fingers to get all of this evenly spread out where there's not big hunks. I'm going to sort of mix it in and make an even layer where it will get off to a good even start, just like that. So now I'm going to take these off. It's good to keep a garbage can nearby, so I'm going to get rid of that. And we're going to turn on the oven. You don't want to overheat when you're browning raw meat. You want it to happen fairly slowly where you're not cooking it too fast on the outside. So I usually do medium. Another tip, it's good to take your meat out of the refrigerator and let it sit for 20, maybe 30 minutes to get more to room temp. That way you're not putting cold meat in. It's just going to make it take longer, so you can cut a little time by getting this a little more room temp. Now, while it's heating, very simple seasonings. And I'm going to, even though I was wearing gloves, I'm going to wash my hands because I use these salt and pepper containers. I dip my fingers. I always make doubly sure my fingers are super, super clean, my hands. Okay, so you always want to do a nice sprinkling of, I would say this is probably a teaspoon to start, and you're gonna season in stages, but kosher salt and some pepper, and you can really eyeball this. And then garlic powder. Garlic powder is better than garlic salt because you've already got salt. You don't want to get too many salts going on, but garlic powder is perfect. It's almost an essential for ground meat. I always add it. I always keep a big container of it. So we're gonna add that, and usually that's all I add. I just have this Dax salt-free Italian seasoning that I really like, so I'm just gonna put some of that. So now the fun begins. I don't know if you can tell, it's starting to simmer. You can see everything bubbling. Let me see if I can show you all. If I'm moving this and it's shaking, I'm sorry, but I just want to show you all. So you don't want to start turning it until you've given it enough time to get lightly brown evenly on the bottom, and then we're going to start turning. I hope that wasn't shaky, my friends. This is a fish spatula, but this is what I always use for turning this type of thing because you can get a large amount and flip large amounts, and it's lightweight and it's flexible. So I'm going to link to all of my tools. Now this is something that you can also use if you don't use your hands, or if you use your hands and then later you want to go back just like this. You can see it breaks up the meat even more. The goal is to cook this completely. You'll probably have one grease drain. If you start seeing grease, sometimes if there's a lot of liquid in the beef, which is what happens if you get a lower quality beef or ground meat, you're gonna wanna drain that. You don't want your meat to be in a lot of liquid because it will be braising, not browning. Now, I'm gonna turn this up a little because it's really going fairly slow. So I'm at about medium high. Now, this is where I start putting the lid. When you put a lid, and I love my glass lid, you see the steam, and I'm going to show y'all again. You've created a little oven. It's trapping the heat and it's creating steam, and you're basically making a steam oven. Why this is important is if you make it small and you encase the steam, you're steaming the meat. Now you don't want to steam it the whole time. There'll be too much moisture, but steaming, it goes inside and it gets the inside part of the ground beef. If you don't use a lid, the heat is just hitting the meat wherever the meat is hitting the pan. And there have been occasions that people have gotten their ground meat and they've bitten into it and they see pink. It's because it wasn't cooked thoroughly from within. Now I want to show you all See how that got everything going? So now I'm going to get my fish spatula. Guys, I'm an amateur at photography, but I hope this is helpful. I want y'all to be able to see it. Okay, so now you can see, and we are getting some liquid, but what you want to do is you want to start flipping where all of the red, the raw, is now on the bottom. So you just have to keep flipping and spreading out, and you can't always get it perfectly evenly, but you just want to start trying to brown it on all sides. And I can tell after I put the lid on one more time, I'm going to need to do a grease drain. But see, just going to try to get it a little even. And now here's where you're going to want to do another seasoning. You want to salt in layers. That just makes sure you're getting your salt all over and that everything is seasoned well. So we've got this layer. Okay, I'm going to add a little more pepper. And I'm just going to add a slight bit more garlic powder. I'm going to put the lid on. I like to steam it at least once on each side. You don't even see much red anymore, but it still has a good way to go. So now I'm turning it down to medium. When it starts getting momentum, you can turn it back down to medium. It's just in the beginning when it's still a little cold and it's very raw that you want to do the steam, go up a little bit. So now I'm going to turn this one more time and I'm going to drain the grease. Now, how I'm going to drain the grease is I'm going to put this lid on and I'm going to leave a little opening and I'm going to pour it off in the sink. So y'all hang on 1 second. Okay, I need to get this where the grease hit the handle. Okay, so now all of that grease is off. I'm going to mix it up, break it up a little bit more, and we are probably, see there's some red, there was a big clump, and when I pierced it, it was red in the middle. So we've probably got a good 5-6 minutes left to keep turning, and we're going to keep adding the lid. I'm just going to rinse the lid because it got grease on it when I drained all of the grease. So it's on medium. I'm going to turn it up just a smidge. I'm going to get my lid. Okay, and friends, I know this might seem elementary, but this is one of those fundamental cooking skills, just browning and seasoning meat and then freezing, that can be a game changer. If you don't do this and you're thinking, oh my goodness, I've got to go buy ground beef, I've got to brown it, my kitchen's going to smell like grease, then I've got to put together spaghetti. I don't know how long it's been since I have made spaghetti, chili, baked ziti, even chicken tetrazzini. That's a whole nother video, chicken prep, because I always keep this in the freezer. So no mess, no smell, just take it out. It's good if you know a day in advance, a day or two, where you can take your frozen meat out of the freezer and thaw it slowly in your fridge, and then put it together in your slow cooker with whatever seasonings based on what you're making. It's a game changer. It's just a game changer. So this is almost ready, and the lid is a must because you know it's cooking from the inside out when you've got that lid. So I'm gonna keep doing this. Now you might say, or you might ask, I'm turning up just a smidge, you might ask, how do I know when it's done? Really? You look, and if it looks like there's no red, you're going to flip it more. You're gonna break it up a little more. It's just the same thing, flipping, breaking up, covering with a lid until, this is my gauge. Mine starts to get, like, clearly starts browning, and sometimes based on what I'm making, I might even let it get a little bit crisp. This I'm not, because I'm probably just going to use this for spaghetti, and because there's Italian sausage, I'm just going to get this fully and completely cooked where it's all brown. So I'm going to turn this up just a smidge more. There will be some more liquid released even after one drain, but there's no need to worry about that because that's probably pure fat, whereas the first drain was probably mostly water or whatever they put to preserve meat when they package it. This is probably all fat. There's not much of it, and remember, fat is flavor. I'm breaking up and I'm turning, flipping everywhere. Now I'm not seeing any red, but for good measure, I'm also gonna shake it, make sure it's even, and I'm going to add one little final bit of kosher salt. Now I'm going to cover it last time. Once you've done this a few times, you're going to know, okay, it's ready. This is almost ready. So what I'm going to do is tell you what to do when it is completely browned and ready. You want to take the lid off. You want to use this to flip and turn. You want to cool your meat. You want to cool it until it's not necessarily room temp, but where it is not hot. You don't want to put hot ground beef into a gallon freezer, and you want to use freezer bags, Ziplocs. I always use 1 gallon or 2 gallon or food saver. You want to make sure it's not hot because number one, it will trap steam. You don't want a hot plastic bag. And it may be that Ziploc bags are not even safe when it's cool, but I've been doing it for years, so I'm not worried that it's really hurting me at this point. So I digress. Okay, so what you're going to want to do is cool off your meat. And I like to, just because I think it looks better and it's just good when everything is small. So even when it's cooked, I go through and I break it into little pieces. Everything is small. You don't want chunks of ground beef. Okay, and we've got the sausage in there. I'm going to show you what it looks like. Okay, and you can tell that's getting really golden brown. So that's done. So I'm going to turn this off, but I'm going to put the lid back on. And what I'm going to do is let it sit on the cooktop. It's off. The juices are going to be retained. It's going to just come down in heat, but it's just going to continue cooking, breaking down the collagen that's in the meat. And it's just going to, you'll know that you know that you know that it's fully cooked, because you can't use a meat thermometer with ground meat, so you just always want to take every precaution to make sure it's done. So this is why you do this when you're at home and you've got time. I'm going to start doing this where the heat will come off. I'll leave it like this for maybe 30 minutes. And then when it gets cool, I'm going to put it in whatever and you can put it in glass freezer containers. There's so many options of BPA-free plastic, but whatever you put it in, you want to get all the air out. And this is important, and I promise you, you'll be glad that you do this every time. You want to label what it is, and for this, I'm going to put spaghetti sauce base, and I may even put ground beef Italian sausage, and I'll put 2 pounds. I don't always do that because I don't really measure. I always do minimum 2 pounds of the ground beef and anything else, and then I just add if I need to. I do a lot of adapting with my recipes, but you want to put what it is and the date that you put it in the freezer, because when you've got a lot of different bases and you've got one that doesn't have Italian sausage, or you have one that's maybe turkey or whatever, just put what it is and when you froze it. My recommendation when you've cooked ground beef base, make sure it's sealed completely airtight, and then make sure that you get it out of the freezer. I would say it'll be fine. I try to use mine 3 to 4 months. If you've got a vacuum sealer, you can probably go 6, but I just think it's better to keep it less time. Now I'm going to tell you another hack before I sign off. If you want to go even one step further, if you're going to make spaghetti sauce and not baked ziti, you can go ahead, get out the recipe and put everything in, and you can go ahead and make the sauce and then let it cool and freeze it. And then when you want to feed company, you take it out, thaw it in the fridge, put it in the slow cooker, and you don't have to add anything. My baked ziti, you use jarred pasta sauce for that. You can add all of that. Let it simmer for just a bit. You don't have, because it's gonna simmer and slow cook the day you make it, but you can mix it all in and then just go ahead and make your whole mess while you are at the stovetop. And then you've got things that you can just pull out and reheat when you want to serve guests. I hope that this was helpful. I hope this helps you feel more confident that you can whip up a meal. I hope that these techniques and tips were helpful. And if there is any content you would like for me to share, please let me know in the comments. And I'm so grateful for you watching my show. I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel, leave comments, and as always, until next time, be blessed and stay savvy.